mysteriously vanished in America's wilderness. Join us as we dive into the deep end of the unexplainable and try to piece together what happened. You are listening to Locations Unknown.
What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Locations Unknown. I'm your co-host, Joe Irado, and with me, as always, is a guy who is most certainly best friends with that English guy in all the action movies where everyone knows him, but just can't put their finger on his name, Mike Van de Bogart.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you to all of our loyal listeners for tuning in. Thank you to our friend of the show, Jason Statham.
Oh, he's your friend. I'm not cool enough.
For recording that cold open for us. Just a couple quick announcements here. A couple Patreon supporters I'd like to give shout-outs to. Kelly Morales, Luke Conde, Tish Millette, and Monica Medeiros. I think I got that right.
I don't think you did.
I probably did.
But I don't know what it is either.
All right, we're also going to give a quick episode suggestion shout-out to Samantha Porter. This individual is a close friend of the family of the gentleman who went missing in this case. So she had emailed us a week or two ago about this. So
I think those might be the only people who would trump a Patreon supporter for episode suggestion.
Yeah.
Somebody close to the case.
Yeah, this is a really interesting case. Joe, in a second here, is going to get into location profile, character profile. Because the location he went missing in is not a national park or a forest or even a wilderness area, we don't have the same kind of level of detail for...
Well, it's an area in the wilderness.
Yeah, oh, it's definitely remote. But it's going to be a little bit more high level, kind of on the generalized location of where he went missing. But Joe will get into that in a bit. So I have no more updates.
Yeah, just I want to start mentioning at the beginning of the show. If you have suggestions, comments, always call our phone number. I want to get so many on there so we can wrap up some Patreon episodes. And I love listening to your messages. We got a couple drunk ones. We got a couple funny ones. We still haven't done the episode with the Wisconsin names. I almost said Wisconsin names.
I think we have a few more celebrity followers. We'll have to have one of them record the phone number for us.
Absolutely. Yeah. 208-391-6913 is the number. Call it. Leave any type of message you want.
Just remember, we may play it live on a show, so don't say anything you wouldn't want a lot of people to hear.
Yeah, we caught that one lady. She started saying her address and the email address. I was like, ah! So, because we didn't listen to it ahead of time. So, yeah, only put information on there that you want potentially to be public on the airwaves.
But the crazier and the funnier, the more likely we'll play it.
Oh, 100%. All right, everybody, let's gear up and get out to explore Locations Unknown. October 20th, 2018. A man goes scouting for a hunting location in Pine Mountain, Wyoming. He left in his truck and never made it to his destination. Join us this week as we investigate the mysterious disappearance of Terry Meador. So Pine Mountain is located in the southwest portion of Wyoming, right near the southern border. And it sits at 9,555 feet. So it's actually a pretty tall mountain. And I'm actually going to throw this up on the screen just so you can see here. Google Earth was not being my friend earlier, so I'm just going to use Google Maps, so I can't get the 3D view, which is depressing. But you can see it is very remote, kind of in the middle of nowhere. What's the closest town to this thing?
Well, Terry was from Rock Springs, Wyoming, which is about, I want to say 30 miles north.
Yeah, I'll go to terrain. Okay, so yeah, It's 30 miles into the mountains in the middle of nowhere.
It's remote. You're kind of, anyone who's familiar with Wyoming, on the western end of Wyoming, you've got, the mountain ranges. Up in the corner, you've got, what's the park in Wyoming? The big one. Yellowstone?
Yellowstone, yeah.
Yeah, you've got Yellowstone. And in the eastern, in the eastern part of the state, eastern, southern, you've got kind of highlands.
Here's Yellowstone up here.
Yeah. So
southeastern, eastern, southern.
Yeah, getting all my locations messed up here, but for a lot of part of the state is just high plains country. It's arid.
Yeah, so we're not going to go into too much of there's not trails or anything around here. It's not like a park, so we're going to do some interesting
a lot of access
facts.
roads and
just logging roads and things like that. You can kind of see as I zoom in here. It's
in this
Bureau
area,
of Land Management Road 4,413.
Yeah, so that's BLM land.
Yes,
and really good hunting. This is a very popular area for hunters in Wyoming. So.
All right, so we're going to do some interesting facts about Wyoming because we don't have a lot of information specifically about this spot. So Wyoming, Mike, is the least populous state in the country, even though it's the 10th largest by area. According to census records, approximately 586,000 people live within its 97,818 square miles. To put that into perspective, the smallest state in the U.S. is Rhode Island and has an area of only 1,200 square miles and is home to 1.05 million people. So it's half the people in, I don't even know, you're the accountant. What percentage of square miles is that? You're almost 100,000 square. It's 1% of the space. And it's twice the people.
Yeah, it's small. I mean, even 586,000 is about the population of Milwaukee.
Okay.
And our metro area is about 1.5 million.
Okay, so it's the city of Milwaukee spread out across one of the 10th largest state.
Yeah.
All right. So if you want to buy land, it's probably really inexpensive in Wyoming. The outlaw Harry Alonzo Longbaugh, a.k.a. the Sundance Kid, took his nickname from the town of Sundance, Wyoming, where he was jailed at the age of 15 for stealing a horse.
It's like Grand Theft Auto, but a horse.
I was going to do a dad joke, and I'm just not going to now.
You could still do it.
Well, no.
Okay.
Okay. The mythical creature known as the jackalope was born in the 1930s when, in Douglas, Wyoming, Douglas Herrick and his brother Ralph decided to add antlers to a dead jackrabbit they had taxidermied. They sold the creatures and their tall tale to anyone willing to buy. You can still get a jackalope hunting license in the city. Now, did he literally live in a town named after himself?
I don't know.
Douglas,
pretty cool.
Douglas Herrick from Douglas, Wyoming. There's so few people there. It's just it's my town, and I have this jackalope.
It's just a coincidence, maybe.
Yeah, so if you ever see a rabbit head with two prong antlers sticking out of it, that's not a real animal. It's a jackalope. And they're all over the place in Wisconsin. Northern Wisconsin bars all have a jackalope.
That's funny.
And they all talk about it like nobody knows that it's not real. Nearly half of the state, or 48%, is owned by the United States government. Its Wyoming-based holdings include National Forest, the National Grassland, and an Air Force base in the capital. Wyoming didn't raise the legal drinking age from 19 to 21 until 1988. It's the last state of the union to do so. Because if you live there, there's no people and you need to drink.
Yep.
James Cash Penny opened his first store on April 14th, 1902 in Kemmerer, Wyoming. Today, there are approximately 1,020 J.C. Penney stores across America. There you go. J.C. Penney started in Wyoming.
Yep.
The Spanish Empire claimed southwestern Wyoming until it was ceded to the United States in the year 1848 at the end of the Mexican-American War. We're going to go into a little bit of the climate now. The state is considered a semi-arid east of the mountains, and since the mountain ranges lie in the general north-south direction, they are perpendicular to the prevailing westerlies. Therefore, westerlies. Sorry, the mountain ranges provide effective barriers which force the air currents to move in from the Pacific Ocean to rise and drop much of their moisture along the western slopes.
You see this on the West Coast in Washington and Oregon.
Yes. Super green areas on one side.
Temperate rainforests near the ocean, and on the eastern side of the states, if you've ever driven through either of those states, it's pretty dry.
Yes.
So it's pretty cool.
Heck yeah. I love weather.
Yes.
Snow accumulates to considerable depths in the high mountains, and many of the streams fed by the melting snow furnish ample quantities of water for irrigation for the thousands of acres of land. Because of its elevation, Wyoming has a relatively cool climate. Most of the state is above 6,000 feet level, with temperatures rarely exceeding 100 degrees. Actually, is the whole state above 6,000 feet?
On average. There are, kind of interesting.
There's a couple really deep holes that people dug.
The Yellowstone area is actually one of the lowest points in the state.
Okay.
And, but I think it's in here.
It's okay.
Further down
So
the line.
we'll get there.
Yeah.
The warmest parts of the state are the lower portions of Bighorn Basin, the lower elevations of central and northeast portions, and along the eastern border. For most of the state, mean maximum temperatures in July range between 85 and 95. With increasing elevation, the average values drop rapidly. A few places in the mountains at about 9,000 feet level have an average maximum in July close to 70. Summer nights are almost invariably cool, even though daytime readings may be quite high at times. For most places away from the mountains, the mean minimum temperature in July ranges from 50 to 60. Of course, the mountains and high valleys are much cooler, with average lows in the middle of summer in the 30s and 40s, with occasional drops below freezing. So it can snow all year round up there.
Yeah,
it's rare in July, but it can snow in the mountains. In January, the coldest month generally, minimum temperatures range from 5 to 10 degrees Fahrenheit. In the Western Valley, mean values go down to about 5 degrees below zero. The record low for the state is negative 66 degrees Fahrenheit, observed February 9th, 1933 at Yellowstone Park. During warm spells in the winter, nighttime temperatures frequently remain above freezing. Chinooks, warm downslope winds are common along the eastern slopes. The period of maximum precipitation occurs in the spring and early summers for most of the state. Precipitation is greater over the mountain ranges and usually at higher elevations, although elevation alone is not the predominant influence. So it rains a lot in the mountains.
Yeah.
For example, over most of the southwest portion, where the elevation ranges from 6,500 to 8,500 feet, annual precipitation varies from 7 to 10 inches. That's not that much, actually.
No.
At lower elevations over northeast portions and along the eastern border, where elevations are mostly in the range of 4,000 to 5,500 feet, the annual average is from 12 to 16 inches. The relatively dry southwest portion is a high plateau nearly surrounded by mountain ranges. So the terrain. As we said before, it's pretty much high all over the states. Mean elevation is 6,700 feet above sea level. And even when the mountains are excluded, the average elevation over the southern part of the state is well over 6,000 feet, while much of the northern portion is some 2,500 feet lower. The lowest point, and this gets to your point, so it is way lower, is 3,125 feet in the northeast corner where Belle Fork River, I know that's wrong, don't yell at me.
Forche.
Belle Forche River.
It sounds French.
Yeah, Belle Forche River. The state line into South Dakota. The highest point is Gannett Peak at 13,785 feet, which is part of the Wind River Range in west central portion. So they don't have any 14ers. They're close, but not enough.
Nope.
So some of the animals that you'll expect to see out there, mountain lions, although not commonly seen, mountain lions are widespread throughout Wyoming. They prefer rocky, bushy areas with steep slopes and cliffs and scattered openings in the trees. But in the past few years, they have been encountered in more marginal habitats, often close to human habitation. Black bears are there too. Black bears in Wyoming are found across the state, occupying a large range of habitats from those above timberline to river bottoms. You also have elk, foxes, coyote, prairie rattlesnakes, midget-faded rattlesnakes, northern Pacific rattlesnakes. Are any of them poisonous?
So the three are listed there are pretty poisonous. Those are the ones you don't want to come across. And for anyone listening, these animals are kind of just what Terry could have come across. There's a lot of other, mammals and stuff in the area, but
no, there's no more. Those are the only animals in all of Wyoming.
But up in Yellowstone, obviously, they have grizzlies. So they're
do they? Do we know for a fact?
Yes.
Okay.
There obviously are bison in Wyoming and moose, but those are found in different locations, not really where Terry was hunting.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, bison typically aren't in the mountains.
No.
They're like giant minivans. Let's see here. This goes over terrain again.
Yep.
In the area where Terra is missing is very rugged. I showed you on the map if you were watching the screen. We got some...
I found a website that had some really good pictures of Pine Mountain.
I'll pull this up real quick.
So
I'll throw it up there, and we'll verbally describe as much as possible. Let me go live here. Oh, there's a nice dog. What type of dog is that?
At first, I thought it was the Doge cryptocurrency dog, but it's not.
No.
So it.
Oh yeah, look at that. It's just flat land, and you see a mountain in the distance.
Yeah. So this does also kind of give us an idea of what the terrain, around where Terry went missing might have looked like.
Like desert-ish. It's the arid.
It's arid, dry. Yeah. Around the mountains, it gets very rugged.
Yeah, it's not totally desolate, but if anyone's driven through any of these states where it's just low-lying grass and it looks like sand everywhere, that's what it's looking like.
Yeah, it's it reminds me a lot of we've driven through Wyoming.
Yeah.
At least I have.
To get to Glacier?
Yeah.
Yep. It's a very boring drive.
And
at night, did you ever drive at night? Were we together when we drove at night? Yes.
Yeah.
And we we had to drive 35 miles on the freeway because there were hundreds of deer just in the roads all the time. Like we couldn't drive freeway speeds or we would just hit deer over and over again. And there was just no off-roads.
No.
I remember being worried about gas at one point because we're like, okay, we're just on a road forever.
But it looks really cool. It looks like a fun spot to hike.
I bet at night it's beautiful.
And
there's nothing around, so there's probably zero light pollution.
Yeah.
It's probably gorgeous on a clear night.
The thing with Pine Mountain is the north side of the mountain is very heavily wooded, and the south side is pretty barren and desolate.
So if you do it right, you can kind of go through not desert-ish.
Well, yeah, and Terry would have been...
We're good. Just keep going.
Okay. Terry would have been on the north side of the mountain.
Okay.
Because that's obviously where the wooded side is.
Yeah, that's where, if you're hunting, you're not going to find too many animals in this.
Yeah, so pretty cool.
Right. Yes.
We'll post a link to that website in the show notes so people can check it out and see the pictures.
All right. Let me get back into here. Okay, so exposure. If he's on that side, as we said, there's more trees, so it's not too exposed to the elements. You're not going to get too hot, probably, so wouldn't have to worry about that. It was... I lost connection to this website. It decided to make a noise. I have to learn how to turn those noises off. Some of the things you can have, though, are hailstorms, the most destructive type of storm for the state. And every year, damage to crops and property from hail amount to many thousands of dollars. Occasionally, a hailstorm will pass over a city and cause severe damage. Most of the hailstorms pass over the open rangeland and damage is slight. Although in small areas of crop-producing land, some farmers occasionally lose an entire crop by hail. That's crazy.
So hail
must be big hail.
Yeah, hail is not a weather phenomenon that we typically talk about in these cases. But when I was looking up weather and things in Wyoming, hail kept coming up as one of the biggest hazards.
So it's frequent enough that it's worth mentioning, and we have not seen that before.
I think it has to probably do with, and obviously not a meteorologist, but Wyoming has a lot of wind.
You look like a meteorologist.
It's very windy. So that probably has something to do with
you're not allowed to make those claims.
Yeah.
If you're not a meteor. Okay, so my only understanding of where hail comes from is from a Magic School Bus episode when I was a child.
Oh yeah.
And this is how I think it works. And when you're talking, I'll look it up.
Okay.
But it's rain that gets caught in updraft, so it goes down and then comes back up and it freezes, then it refreezes, and it goes in this cycle until it gets too heavy and then finally falls.
I think that sounds right.
So, if the updraft is strong enough, it keeps refreezing until it get bigger. But if it's not, it'll drop when it's smaller.
Yeah.
I think that's how it works.
I'm pretty sure you're on.
And if I am onto something, we need to bring Magic School Bus back.
Yeah, you remembered something.
I know.
That in Reading Rainbow. Yes. Remember that show?
I love that show. All right. So, outside of that, blizzards in winter at high elevations, that's always a thing in the mountains.
And especially in Wyoming, this has to do with it's a very, a lot of wind in that state.
Yes.
So I read a lot. Blizzards are a big issue when you're in elevation.
Yeah, you'll get whiteout conditions, and then you always have the hazard of falling.
Yeah,
especially if you're in a blizzard and trying to move around and can't see.
Yeah.
So difficulty in general. The detective on this case said that the area is not for people who don't know what they're doing or know the area, and cell phone coverage is very spotty.
Yeah. So if you go and look at Google Maps, it's. I mean, like we said, it's a massive state. This county that Terry went missing in is one of the largest counties in the country. and it's remote.
Largest in size.
In size,
Okay,
yeah.
not population.
No. And it's remote. There's no facilities out here.
I go back to satellite. Let's see if we can get an idea of like where the. So those are trees.
Yeah. So
That's crazy. It's like I thought, like didn't know what that was. Like it's so desolate. Like look at this patch of trees.
yeah, it's kind of like an oasis. Kind of if you look
It
at the
is.
rest.
Yeah, you zoom out. Like here's trees, and then this is all just dry, arid.
Yeah, it's like an island of mountain.
So I bet that's just chock full of animals.
Yeah, that's why it's a very popular hunting spot for people in Wyoming.
Okay,
So
I believe you now. I didn't believe you at first.
yeah. So okay.
All right, let's talk about Terry.
Yeah.
Terry went missing on October 20th in 2018, so only a few years back. He's a male. He is age 74 at the time of the disappearance. He was 5'10" and 180 pounds, gray hair and blue eyes. When he went missing, he was last seen in an orange jacket. I'm assuming it's a blaze orange hunting
it's
jacket.
for hunting.
All right. He smoked cigarettes. He did not have a cell phone that was on or charged.
So yeah, his son said that he was not a techie kind of guy, and he had a cell phone, but sometimes he would forget it. Sometimes he would take it, not turn it on, and other times he'd forget to charge it.
Okay.
So
medical issues. He suffers from bipolar disorder, which he keeps under control with medication. So if he's on his meds, it's usually pretty good.
Yeah.
It's when you start forgetting those that it can start causing problems. He was taking the medicine as directed at the time of his disappearance, so that shouldn't have been a factor.
Yep.
His occupation, he was a former junior high teacher and restaurant owner. Experience in the wilderness, he was an avid hunter, grew up on a mountain ranch between Moab, Utah, and Grand Junction, Colorado. He lived in Rock Springs, Wyoming for 48 years up to his disappearance. Average high in the area he went missing is 61 and the low is 31. So that was the temperatures at the time he went missing. So I would say it's safe to say he knows the area.
Yeah, he lived around Rock Springs. Like we said, it was just north of this area.
So he hunted it for almost 50
He's
years.
hunted, all over this area for a long time. So I think it's safe to assume, in the sense that he knew the area, very experienced, in the sense that maybe was he prepared fully for going out into this remote of an area? Probably not.
Yeah, if he just like, hey, I normally go this way.
Yeah.
Well, I'll get to bring limited supplies because I'm going to be in and out. If he's just looking for a spot, maybe scouting, you're not planning to stay out there, so he probably didn't bring all of his gear.
Yeah.
And then just people in the case you might hear, if you hear say BJ, that is the son of Terry. So that is the mention if we say someone like BJ.
Yes.
Mike, our next partner, has a product I use literally every day. I started taking AG1 because, as many of you know, I got into kickboxing and was feeling slow and sluggish on training days. I was taking more supplements than I could count, and nothing was helping. One of the fighters at my gym recommended Athletic Greens AG1 Daily Health Drink, and I've never felt better. One scoop of AG1 in the morning has me ready to take on Mike Tyson by the time I get to the gym. One serving of AG1 contains 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food-sourced superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens that supports better sleep, quality, recovery, mental clarity, and alertness. All things very important to the world of combat fighting. Best of all, it costs less than $3 a day, which from my own experience is cheaper than getting all the different supplements yourself. For less than a cup of Starbucks, you can make an investment in your own health that I can personally vouch for. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just one scoop and a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/emerging. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/EMERGING to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance.
All right, so jumping right into the timeline, like Joe mentioned earlier in this episode, the case starts off on October 20th, 2018, which is Saturday. This would be the last time that Terry's son, BJ, had spoken with him. And like we said, Terry was in Rock Springs, Wyoming, and he was heading out to look for a place to hunt. While we don't have verifiable evidence that he was by himself, his family, law enforcement, everyone thinks he was alone on the trip based on the evidence that was found and statements from family. So I think it's safe to assume he was alone on this trip. According to his son, his dad was heading out to spot for the upcoming deer hunt he was going on, and he was taking some family members with him. So he wasn't just looking for a spot for himself to hunt, but for some of his family that were coming with.
Okay.
And like I said earlier, Pine Mountain is known as a very good hunting spot. Has lots of sections of sagebush, trees, and some very steep terrain. And hunting season in this part of the country starts in August and ends in November. So moving forward to the next day. So Terry has not been officially reported missing yet, but it's October 21st, 2018, which is Sunday. And some bear hunters from Rock Springs reported, they reported this after Terry was actually reported missing, that they had seen his abandoned truck 6 days earlier, the day after Terry left home. So that would have been October 21st. After searching the area, the hunters followed boot tracks leading from the truck and traveling west for about 2 miles down an access road to where the tracks disappeared into the trees. And according to the lead detective on this case, the trees in this area where his tracks disappeared were very thick. Not like, old growth forests where you can kind of see off for a distance, like a wall of vegetation, basically.
Okay.
So, yeah, on the map, now he was on the north end of the mountain, so you're kind of on the east side if you scroll out. And you see where that white dot is. He was
like right on here?
He was up there somewhere. We have some pictures.
Yeah, I can see some roads right here.
Yeah, we have some pictures from law enforcement there where they kind of show where the truck was located. Let's see if you can. We'll get to those pictures in a minute. So this one picture is not very descriptive. It's, I don't know. I mean, you've got Red Creek, so you can kind of.
All right, Highway 430. Okay, you can keep going. I'll try and see if I can. Navigate this.
Like we said, it was very thick vegetation. So the bear hunters at the time didn't report this to the police because I've seen this when I've been up north in Wisconsin hunting. During hunting season, there's trucks kind of parked out in the middle of nowhere all over the place. And it's not uncommon, not that his truck was parked, but it's not uncommon to see trucks out in the woods. And it's also not really... in Wyoming, based on what the detective said and what locals have said, that if you drive around in Wyoming long enough in the backcountry, you're going to get stuck. It's just a foregone conclusion.
Okay.
Just because the roads are so rugged and due to weather, it happens. So it's not even unusual out here in Wyoming to find a truck stuck in a ridge like that. So, so I lost my spot here. So Terry, so the footprints, like I said, were heading west for about 2 miles down an access road, and that would have had Terry heading in the direction of Highway 191 south, which would have been about a 20-mile walk from his location. So in theories of what happened, I'll get into, we'll kind of start factoring this kind of, some of this information in, but that's an important note to make that the direction that he was walking, if he knew he was walking west and knew Highway 191 was in that direction, that's a hell of a hike to do, especially in the dark. So we are fast forwarding now to October 22nd, so the next day. According to family and friends, Terry was actually supposed to meet up with a friend to cut up an antelope, but never showed up. So this is kind of like the first clue that something might be wrong, but again, no one at the time reported it because, sometimes I think I read somewhere that, it wasn't unusual that, maybe he stayed out a little longer to hunt. So,
okay. I got the picture of his truck pulled up. Yeah. He's like just drove into this big wedge.
Yeah. It's probably, like you're driving and your wheel starts getting pulled in and
it's for those listening. It's like kind of tilted into like almost a little ravine, but the ground is holding up the middle of the car. So think about like on a snowbank, like the wheels aren't touching the ground. So it's not like you could like maneuver. You'd have to get towed out of here.
And I'll get into why these ruts are in the road. The detective kind of detailed why this happens.
Can I guess?
What do you
Is it for water?
Yes.
For erosion purposes?
No, it happens naturally.
Oh, they didn't dig them out.
No.
Okay.
Okay, so like I said, he missed his appointment with his friend on the 22nd to cut up some antelope. So now this is a very strange coincidence what happened on the 23rd. So October 23rd, 2018, like we said, Terry went out spotting on the 20th. His truck was found by some bear hunters on the 21st, stuck, like the picture Joe is showing. He missed his meeting with his buddy to cut up antelope on the 22nd. And now on the 23rd, a pizza order was made and sent to a family friend of the Meadors with the name Meador written on the box. And the family that received the pizza stated that they had not ordered pizza. So the detective on this case had to waste time tracking this down. But law enforcement ultimately determined this was a prank by a school-age girl who knew the family was close with Terry and simply used his name randomly.
That's a really mean prank.
It was a mean prank. She was playing it on a friend, and
yeah, what a great friend.
Yeah, but
your grandpa's missing. Let's order a pizza.
I think the girl was 6. So
okay.
Young.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fine.
So the law enforcement detective, spent days tracking this down. Eventually, got a warrant from Verizon to get the information from the phone call that made the pizza order.
Well, it taught her a lesson.
And he showed up at the house where the girl was living to talk to her, and I'm sure scared her straight.
Yeah.
Though I heard an interview with the detective. He sounds really nice, so probably everyone in Wyoming's nice.
Yeah.
So that was the 23rd. Very strange coincidence. Had nothing to do with the disappearance. October 25th, 2018, which is a Thursday. Now, some of you who are looking up this case, there were some news reports that stated he was reported missing on the 26th. I'm going to go with the 25th based on law enforcement posts that I read. So Terry is reported missing to the Rock Springs Police Department on the 25th. Now, this is another strange coincidence. There was a reported call or text to Terry's phone on the 25th, but law enforcement was never able to determine if it was in fact a call or a text because the signal wasn't strong enough. So inconclusive. They don't know who was trying to call him.
Okay.
But if people are reporting him missing on the 25th, it does make sense that people probably tried to call his cell phone. So we're now on
I finally located where his car was.
Okay.
Like right here.
Yeah. So look at that terrain where he theoretically went missing. Pretty flat.
Yeah, and like wide open.
Yeah.
I mean, you saw it in the picture of the car. I didn't see this map on here the first time, that's why. But yeah, look at it around there. Like, it's not like he got lost in the woods.
No.
Okay.
So we'll get into a little more detail about the car that was found. So it's October 26th, 2018. Deputies and Sweetwater County search and rescue volunteers were on the scene that Friday. The sheriff's department set up a mobile command post, and search activities were commenced with, throughout most of the day, nothing found. And just to put this in perspective for people listening, the county Terry went missing in, Sweetwater County, is 10,000 square miles. It's larger than 6 states, and it's the 8th largest county in the U.S. And really funny, when I listened to an interview with the detective, and he said when he first joined the county sheriff's department back in the early 2000s or mid 2000s, there were 2 deputies that patrolled 10,000 square miles.
Oh my gosh.
So he's like, we could be out working one day, and I could be at a case on one end of the county, and my fellow deputy is like 6 hours away. Like, 10,000 square miles is a huge.
Would they use like helicopters?
No, patrol cars.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
At that point, like, I feel like you'd have to make them get like a helicopter license.
I mean, you got to think with how sparsely populated Wyoming is. There's probably, like where we live, sadly, there is, a lot of crime.
Yeah.
From time to
There's
time.
probably not a lot, but there's all like you think about rescue.
Yeah.
Like everyone's on their own.
Well, yeah, I mean, these are just the deputies. I don't know about like EMS and fire. I'm sure each little town has their own.
So volunteer.
And, like Rock Springs has their own police department, and the cities have their own police departments, but still, 2 deputies when he started for 10,000 square miles is
I'm picturing like a sheriff's office with like the swinging doors.
Oh, yeah.
And they have horses. Like there's like just never like, we're just going to keep it like it was.
There's one
just appoint a deputy. Like I'm going to deputize somebody to help one day and then take it away.
Kind of like Tombstone, the movie.
Every
They just pull out deputy badges.
Yep. They just throw your deputy now. That would make me move there actually. So I'm not even disparaging it. Like I every now and then long to live life like that, just like cut off from everything.
But with modern medicine.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
With penicillin. I want to live there with penicillin.
Yeah, back in the Wild West days, if you like got a bad cut and you're playing the infection lottery.
Yeah.
Like, will you survive or not?
The bear market's not really affecting these people.
No. So searching on the 26th went well after midnight, and finally a friend of Terry, Bobby Hammer, located Terry's abandoned truck, which we said the bear hunters had found days earlier. So Sweetwater County deputies were informed by family members that a friend had located Meador's unoccupied pickup, a blue 2013 Chevrolet north of Pine Mountain. And from the picture, you can barely tell that it's blue. There's so much dirt on it. That's how...
Yeah, it hasn't been washed.
And
look at the license plate. You can't even see it. It's
guess,
zip-tied onto the grill.
Yeah, so the detective on this case mentioned that these ruts happen on the roads from when it gets really wet and soggy. My guess is he was driving and his truck, this has happened to us up north in Wisconsin, when you get on a real wet road, it'll start sliding sideways. And no matter, even if you got four-wheel drive on, it'll start kind of sucking you towards that rut. And
yeah, you can even see these tire tracks.
Yep.
He got stuck back there and tried driving out of it.
Yeah, so that's what happened, and we've gotten stuck up in the North Woods, not in a rut that big. We got out, but we were hunting a couple years ago, and we tried to drive through this giant puddle, and we got into the middle of it, and my dad's buddy has a big Ford F-350, and it was like it stopped, and we were like way out in the woods, and we're like, we might be spending the night here. But we
I'm surprised they don't have winches on all their trucks. Like, it's not like there's like something a tree could hook onto to pull himself out, but like
another truck if someone came along. Or...
Exactly.
Yeah, and we actually talked about that for up north in future years, get a winch for the truck, because up there there's trees you could pull out of.
Yeah, you wrap it around there and pull yourself out.
But so the truck was found high-centered in a large rut with Terry's rifle, binoculars, hunting license, and a small cooler containing a couple bottles of water and a can of soda.
That is a memory I won't forget now. High-centered. That's what it's called when it's stuck like that.
High-centered, yeah.
Okay, I'm going to remember that one. Core memory formed.
Official search and rescue term for a truck that's stuck
I just can't wait. I can't wait to see a car like that. Like, oh, it's high-centered on the snowbank, because it happens in Milwaukee, and people are like, excuse me?
People will think you're so smart.
I know. Like, wow, what did you just say? It's high-centered.
Yeah. So, like I said, there was water and a can of soda in that cooler, along with some other snacks, according to a report from the Sweetwater County Sheriff. According to his son, he probably also had a handgun with him, which was never found or recovered during the search.
So he brought it with him.
Yeah, so he had it with him. So, like I said, the detective who was in charge of this case said that it can start to snow in the Pine Mountain area in October, and this causes the ground to be really soft and slippery. And like I said, that's how you get those ruts, and that's probably how his truck got stuck. The driver's window was rolled down, which they theorized was to allow Terry to presumably climb out of the vehicle given the steep angle of the truck. So,
he climbed out the driver's side?
Yeah.
Because he could get right to the ground there?
Yeah. Dried mud inside the vehicle and shovel toss in the back of the truck indicated that Terry had attempted and failed to dig his truck out from the rut. So, also, according to the detective on the case, there was no indication that Terry suffered any injuries when the truck got stuck. He noted that there was no physical damage to the interior of the truck or any signs of blood anywhere. So, they're pretty confident that he didn't injure himself when this happened. And I'm sure he was probably driving slow. And it was one of those, like, it just started slowly getting sucked into the rut, and then...
Well, what's weird is... It's a truck. It should be rear-wheel drive, right? But it looks like the front tires are spinning.
Well, he probably was running four-wheel drive.
Yeah, but the back tire isn't coated.
Well,
That's
I don't
cool.
know.
Yeah, that's weird.
Maybe he didn't have 4-wheel drive on at the time. I don't know.
All right.
So, what else? Yeah, and like I said earlier, locals in Wyoming say that if you spend any amount of time driving around the backcountry, you will eventually get stuck at one point or the other.
It's not a if, but when.
It's a when. I mean, look at these roads.
Yeah.
So now through the next couple days, October 26th through the 30th, they had ground units, they had fixed-wing aircraft and helicopter searches in the air and on the ground. They had search and rescue teams, and family and friends were all out there searching. And I'll get into these pretty cool.
Here's the volunteers.
Yeah, here's one of the. I think this was in November. They did a big search and rescue operation later in the fall, which I'll cover here. But yeah, they had a massive team out there. But just like we talked about, how expansive.
I mean, that's half the state.
Oh, but yeah.
I've got dad jokes today.
You got them. So it's October 27th, 2018 now. So the search for Terry south of Rock Springs is still underway, and the Sweetwater County Sheriff Mike Lowell was urgently requesting that no one fly their privately owned drones in the area. So apparently they had a lot of local private landowners and people that had drones now that wanted to fly them around, but
they're worried about the aircraft.
They're worried about the helicopters and fixed-wing aircraft in the air. So they actually had specific times during the search where people could operate drones. So,
that's cool.
Yeah, so they did let people do that, but
I'm such a fan of crowdsourcing every problem.
Yeah.
Like almost every problem.
Yeah, and the sheriff goes on to say, we had a good number of inquiries and offers to help from drone owners, and we very much appreciate them, but a helicopter is part of the search effort now, and the presence of drones in the search area would create an extremely dangerous situation for the air crews, so it makes total sense.
Yep.
Moving forward to October 28th of 2018. So the search for Terry continued that morning. Sweetwater County Sheriff Mike Lowell said ground units, fixed-wing aircraft, and a helicopter were deployed Saturday in the Alkali Creek, Corral Creek, Salt Wells Creek area, about 35 miles generally south of Rock Springs, but were unable to locate Terry Meador. So the search would continue on for several days, and then they organized a very massive search on November 3rd of 2018, which is a Saturday. So Sweetwater County Sheriff mounted a major search operation to stay ahead of weather, predicted to worsen over the following days. Sheriff's deputies, canine teams, search and rescue, tip-top search and rescue, a University of Utah AirMed helicopter, and over 150 volunteers, which Joe has pictured here on the screen, participated in the search. Unfortunately, the search was unsuccessful. They went on to say over 60 square miles have been searched now by teams on foot and horseback, along with land and air vehicles on and around Pine Mountain. Structures within the area have also been searched. So 60 square miles is a massive area to search. You know, and that's a lot of people, but that's nothing compared to the size of the search area. And so sadly, November 14th, 2018, which was a Wednesday, the sheriff announced that due to low temperatures and adverse weather conditions, the official search and rescue operation was suspended. So Joe has some interesting pictures up here. So the first map here on the left of your screen, this map depicts the area searched by air and ground units since October 26th, particularly the search of November 3rd, defined by a 5-mile radius extending out from the spot where Meador's pickup was found, which is at the center of the map. County roads and BLM roads are highlighted and dashed with dashed single lines to indicate 2 tracks and trails. The numbers highlighted in yellow identify designated sectors that search teams were assigned and searched.
All right, so those listening, what we're looking at is a map overview of the area. The center of it is a blacked out where his car was, and there's a 5-mile diameter circle on the map.
Yeah.
And it's almost like a pie chart. It's not perfect spots, but each section of the pie, there's 7 sections. They're numbered, and that is the search area. So we have like the right side is 1, and it goes around clockwise 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Yeah, and this is...
And it looks like the search area's got smaller, the more rugged
Yeah.
It looks like probably because you won't want to search those huge areas. Maybe, I don't know.
And maybe there was more, it required more specialized search teams.
Yeah.
And this is in line with with like modern search techniques. The grid search technique. It doesn't always have to be like a square or rectangle. It's a diameter, and they basically chop it up into pieces. And
yeah, I'll do a photo folder on Facebook for this episode and drop all these in here. So if you're listening now, want to check it out later, it'll be available.
Yeah. So now if you go back to that picture with the two maps,
okay,
the map on the right. So because footprints leading generally west, away from the Meador pickup truck were reported, Sector 4 was a subject of an enhanced search. Searchers on foot and trackers scoured in particular the course of Red Creek from the Red Creek Ranch to the spot where Meador's pickup truck was found. So
now they said his footprints weren't going along a road, though?
They were for about 2 miles and then kind of disappeared into the woods.
That's wild.
Yeah. There's a theory.
Okay.
Law enforcement has a theory on why
I was going to say, I would stay on a road.
His
like,
tracks.
At a minimum, you're going to...
Yeah.
There's like one road.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, you would stay on the road. And even, I have some like notes about the case, but his son mentioned that his dad always told him, if your truck gets stuck, stay with the truck. Someone will find you. And this one time, Terry didn't take his own advice. It's same like in the woods. If you get lost and you realize, like, I'm lost, you stay in one spot.
Well, and not disparagingly, but like with the whole technology, he seems like kind of like a typical stubborn old guy, like how I'm going to be. Like, I'm stuck in my ways. So, like, if that's his philosophy, he's not going to break his own philosophy.
No.
Unless he's forced to for whatever reason.
Yeah. So, in theories, I'll go into...
Okay, I'll hold off.
Yeah, I'll go into... the law enforcement has a pretty good theory of what happened to him. So... Like I said, it was November, 14th, when they called off the search and rescue officially. But like they do in a lot of missing persons cases, the following year when SAR teams were out there training, they trained in areas where people went missing. So in September of 2019, a search and rescue team with cadaver dogs was training in the area, and they found a glove in the area where Terry had disappeared. His son saw the glove and didn't recognize it as something his dad would wear, but they decided to send the glove off for DNA testing. But unfortunately, the testing lab couldn't find enough DNA to figure out whose glove it was, like anybody.
Oh, it was probably sitting out in the elements too long?
Yeah, so the results were inconclusive. So that is the main timeline. I have just some notes here about the case and about other things that happened. So we had another weird coincidence with the phone. So at some point during the disappearance, Terry's phone dialed the Sands Inn Hotel. And
his phone number.
His phone number called the Sands Inn Hotel
after we went missing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
so
he did have a cell phone on him.
He did have a cell phone on him, but they think it might have been
like low on battery or something.
And they don't know when he had his cell phone on him.
Okay,
they couldn't determine.
So they're probably just speculating all of it based on how he normally goes throughout the day.
So the call lasted for under a minute. It was a call to the Sands Inn Hotel. The law enforcement could not determine one way or the other if it was on purpose or it was a butt dial. His son thinks it might have been a butt dial. No one in his family or friends has any clue why he would call that hotel. My question is, it probably was a butt dial, but
how do you butt dial?
I mean, we don't know what kind of phone he had. He might have had a flip phone,
like a jitterbug,
old brick phone, or, why was that hotel number in his phone? Maybe he had friends and family.
I'd say it's a small town. Maybe like you just knew someone who worked there.
Yeah. But, his son went on to say that his dad would have no reason for calling anyone at the hotel. So
okay.
It probably was just a butt dial. Maybe he had it in his phone from prior trips that people, came into Wyoming to visit. So, and like we said, his son said his dad was not a techie kind of guy. He would never really use his cell phone. Like, he had it with him, but He would keep it turned off, or he would forget to charge it, and it would usually go straight to voicemail. He also said, so we know he was bipolar, and he actually had an incident back in 2005 when he was, I believe, moving his mother into an assisted living home in Arizona, and he went off his meds, and he ended up being admitted to a psychiatric facility in Phoenix for several days while they got him, back on his medication and had everything adjusted. So he did have a case of going off his meds and kind of going, having issues in the past. And the detective also mentioned that he did in the past have a DUI. I don't know the actual date of that, but the detective went on to say that from everything in his, case file, Terry was a very law-abiding citizen with all respects, and he was, very well liked and loved in the family and in the town. So even though, he had a DUI, like, that was a one-off kind of thing.
Sure. Well, and stress is like one of the main triggers of the bipolar episode.
Yes. So, and finally,
I knew that one.
One little tidbit here. The week Terry went missing was the 24th anniversary of his wife passing away.
Oh, okay. So, like, he could have had that emotional stress on top of his truck stuck.
Yeah.
Now he's walking. Okay. I won't go into theory.
You're starting to piece together a little bit. So, with that, why don't we just jump right into theories?
Yeah, I've already kind of tiptoed around a couple of them. Let's just go right to it.
I'm going to go into what law enforcement thinks.
Okay.
So the general theory, the Cliff Notes, is authorities believe he got lost and died in the wilderness. Obviously, that's a good likelihood. So the main detective now was... This is where the path of the tracks he had comes into play. He was talking about how the direction the tracks were going was headed towards I-91 South, which was about 20 miles away from his truck. Terry is an experienced hunter. He's been in this area for a long time. Even his own advice is to stay with the truck. So they all thought it was very weird that he would do that. And
that he would not stay with the truck, walk away.
And they even found one of his cigarettes like 200 yards away from the truck. So they know he was out there walking.
He was smoking a cigarette and walking away. Okay.
So the law enforcement pretty much ruled out suicide based on friends and family statements. He was not suicidal at the time.
He's planning a hunting trip for his family.
He was on his medication.
Yeah.
So they don't think he went out there to commit suicide. And he had all the gear with him.
And what was the anniversary of his wife? How many years?
24 years.
Okay, so it's not recent.
No.
Not recent enough to be like...
a major triggering event.
Exactly. Like it's been
coupled
many
with
years.
other stressful events.
Well, I'm just saying in general, like coupled with other stressful events, I think could create that bipolar episode. But like I would say suicide's off table.
Yeah.
Based on the planning, what was happening, his age, how long ago that incident occurred.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the lead detective's theory on this case, he says Terry got stuck, got out of his vehicle, and tried to dig himself out. This area at this time would have been very cold and moist, and Terry would have gotten cold trying to dig himself out. He got to the point where hypothermia started to be a factor. It could have been very cold at this point. For some reason, either he saw headlights or saw something else and made the determination to walk in the direction he did.
Okay.
He said, due to his medical condition and potential hypothermia, he veered off the road and got into some thick brush and got lost. They said, he goes on to say, he might have not had additional medication with him, so we don't know.
Yeah, I wonder what the half-life is of the bipolar medication he was on.
And if he got stuck on the 21st, we don't know how long he stayed at his truck. If he didn't plan on being out there for longer than a day, he maybe didn't bring any medication with him. And I don't know how long you can go off that medication, but the detective seems to think that the combination of his bipolar disorder and hypothermia, which already will cause people to make, not make the best decisions, he decided to walk and went into the woods for some reason and got lost and succumbed to the wilderness in the woods somewhere. And The detective points out that he said there's a lot of scavengers in this part of the woods. There's coyotes, foxes, black bears that could potentially disrupt the remains of somebody.
Okay. Real quick, I know we didn't know what he was on. I just looked up benzodiazepines because that's an anti-anxiety medication typically prescribed to bipolar. So it's just we're assuming, we don't know that he was on benzos. They work as quick as 30 to 60 minutes, but it says they can wear off after a few hours. So if he did not bring enough for multiple days, plus the stress, plus the cold, he could have potentially slowly went into some sort of episode.
Yeah, so that is the leading theory for law enforcement. His son had another theory that maybe he tried to walk back to Rock Springs and made it to the highway where someone picked him up. I don't think that happened.
I don't think that happened.
And
my hunch says that didn't happen.
Yeah, and like we said, they pretty much ruled out suicide based on just all of the factors in the case. So that was law enforcement family theories. What's your thoughts?
I don't want to belabor that point, but I do feel like it was a medical episode that made him. Wow, that just keeps I keep closing that and it keeps wanting to pop back up. Hold on, let me quit that so it stops that noise. I think he would have stayed with his truck if he wasn't in some sort of altered mental status. Something made him go that direction and then randomly veer off somewhere else. I feel like that could, if it was cold, if he's medication's wearing off, maybe in a stress state already.
Yeah.
You kind of have that perfect storm situation, which I feel like sounds rare, but usually makes sense. Because if it's not happening, I feel like he would have been on the road and someone would have found him eventually. Something made him veer off there.
And think of the angle of the truck. So he's a 74-year-old man. I'm in my 30s and I ache. Things hurt.
Yeah.
Can you imagine spending several days? If he has no camping gear, his only option is to stay in the cab of the truck at an angle like this.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be uncomfortable for anybody, let alone somebody in their 70s.
Oh, what you're saying is maybe he did stay in the truck for a long time.
As long as he could, and he couldn't.
He got to the point where he's like, I got to move.
I can't stay in here any longer. And
I didn't think about that.
And you couldn't stay outside because if it's cold and rainy, your only option is stay inside the truck.
Yeah.
You could keep it running and keep the heat going. But if it's so uncomfortable that he can't physically stay in there, he's probably just F it. I'm going to try and walk somewhere.
I wish he would have kept digging.
Right.
After that much time, I feel like you could have made a rut big enough to get the tires out or something.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Maybe if you had more people, if there's a couple guys with you.
Yeah, I don't know what type of condition he was in and his ability to dig either.
And like you said, if he didn't bring any additional medication with him,
yeah, he
may have been good
clearly
for the first day and then went off his meds, and that started affecting his thought process. I tend to agree with the law enforcement theory that I think he tried to stay at the truck as long as he could, and at a certain point he's just I can't stay here any longer.
Mm-hmm.
And the combination of probably being cold and off his meds, he started walking, and then
that's so frustrating. I wonder how close he was to. How long was the window from when he began walking to when the truck was discovered?
Yeah.
You almost don't want it to be close.
Yeah.
You want it to be a long time. I don't want to think about it. That
no,
sucks.
But yeah, it's a very puzzling case. Nothing of his gear, his handgun has never been found. The clothing he was wearing hasn't been found. They continued to, search the area from time to time, family and friends, but it's another really strange case where footprints basically just vanish into the woods.
What's your off the deep end? I've got one.
Let's hear yours. I don't know.
Aliens.
Okay.
And only because what made me think of it as purely an off the deep end theory.
Yeah.
Is what made him go away from the truck. Did he see lights?
Jackalope.
Jackalope.
A rabid jackalope.
He followed a jackalope to the alien ship. No, I'm thinking with UFO lights going towards that thing. It's a car, and then
pop. Yeah.
Abducted.
Yep.
That's my off the deep end. I feel because that area is very New Mexico-ish looking.
Yeah.
Roswell style, very low population. So that's my off the deep end.
Off the deep end aliens. Yeah.
Yep.
Well,
are you going to join me on the off the deep end train?
I'm on your train.
All right.
Yeah. Let's go it. Let's do it.
All right.
Punch my ticket.
All right. Well, thank you all for tuning in to our show. We appreciate you all for listening and sharing Locations Unknown with your friends and family. Be sure to like and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We also have the YouTube channel that you can subscribe to as well for video content where you can see what we're talking about. If you would like to support the show monetarily, visit our Facebook store, buy some cool swag and other things. Otherwise, you can donate to our Patreon account where you'll get exclusive content as well as subscribe. What do they call the YouTube? I ask you this every week.
YouTube memberships.
YouTube membership. So it's different than subscribing. It's an actual paid membership where you'll have access to the same shows that the extra Patreon accounts get access to. And remember, when enjoying the beauty of nature, whether backpacking, camping, or simply taking a walk, always remember to leave no trace. Thanks, and we will see you all next time. Mike, secret Easter egg? Comment jackalope randomly on our Facebook page to get a sticker sent to you in the mail. Jackalope.
Rolling in a send out.
Look, you interested? Stop me. The first two people that count.
We're getting low on stickers.
Okay. I got to order stickers and hats. All right, so comment jackalope on the Facebook page to get a sticker. First two people to comment jackalope. Bye, everybody.